going on, guys? Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I have with me Zack Andrews. He is the writer and actor in both the Houses October Built 1 and 2. Zack, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I know things are kind of crazy right now with COVID. So I know that right now, maybe the upcoming stuff isn't as fluent as we would like, but do you have any information on anything you got coming up here soon, or is everything just still kind of up in the air with COVID? Or
Yeah, things are up in the air. We were supposed to shoot a movie called A Wicked Tale this summer, and so obviously that got pushed back a little bit. But I think once, we've just got to figure out what the rules are, and then we'll push forward. And I think everybody will come at it, pretty quickly. We also, with Bobby, my filmmaking partner, who's also in the movie, Bobby Rowe, we also did another movie during quarantine. It's an anthology, so that hopefully will be out this year as well.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I love anthology movies. Something, Creep Show, Tales from the Crypt, anything anthology is something I've always been a huge fan of. One question I've always had for someone, a writer like yourself, is it easier for you to write the original Houses October Built, or was the sequel easier to write since you kind of already had that foundation and you knew the success of the first one?
Yeah, the sequel definitely, because like you said, the foundation is there, and you kind of know the characters by that point of what, just how they would react in ways it writes itself. But we did want to up the ante for the second movie. And so our main concern was we can't just go to 500 or 600 houses again. And so I think, for people that have seen both movies, you'll see that the second movie is much bigger. It's a zombie paintball, it's a 5K, it's a pub crawl. It's those bigger kind of event things, instead of just going from haunt to haunt again.
Sure. And you guys, if you have not checked those out, I believe they're both still streaming on Prime?
On Hulu.
Hulu. Okay. I'll say I got all these, and it's hard for me to keep track of which ones are which. But you guys can definitely go to Hulu and check both those out. If you have not yet, I would strongly recommend it. You won't regret it. Always a good time, man. I love being able to watch these movies, and you guys did a great job. You can see the passion that you put into them, and I really appreciate that. And again, appreciate you coming on. It's really cool to talk to you. We are here today to talk about your first horror movie, and your first horror movie was
Jaws.
Jaws. It's funny because I was telling you a little bit ago, I haven't had anybody do Jaws yet. And Jaws was a movie that scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. And I recently watched it with my 12-year-old, and he was like, "How did this scare you?" I was like, "Yeah, you're grounded. Get out of here." So going back to rewatching, I guess to a kid now that's watched things like Saw and Sinister, Jaws doesn't hold up as well, but I still watch it and I still get that anxious feeling watching that movie. Do you remember about how old you were and when you watched it?
Yeah, it was elementary school. I think I was probably 7 or 8. And the reason is, and I feel like people won't even believe this, but you just got to go look it up. It's PG.
Yeah.
So I think that was why that could be my first horror film. Is my parents were pretty strict about that stuff, but because it was the ocean and it was like a real life thing rather than like a demon or something like that, and the movie was PG, but that did not stop it from being so scary, at that age. And still, I actually just rewatched it last summer in a pool. We had a big screen out by a pool and watched it with inside shark floaties. There may be pictures of that on my Instagram still.
That is awesome, man. And like you said, one thing about this movie I think is so scary is it is real life. This could really happen. Maybe not to the extremes of what it is in the movie, but how many shark attacks do you hear of in a year? This is something that it's not a guy coming to you in your dreams. It's not a guy waiting for you that's been dead for 20 years at a campground. This is something that is, I still have a phobia of water. Everybody that knows me personally knows I don't swim. I don't do it. It's something that between germs and Jaws, I'm out.
For sure. I mean, there's nothing in Jaws that couldn't happen.
Right.
And for somebody out, for people that have been involved in, those kind of shark attacks, they would argue it actually did happen. There's nothing, fictitious about it.
And that to me is, I love all horror movies. whether it's, you know, psychological thriller, I can consider horror. But these ones like this that have a realistic tone to them always hit me a little harder, you know, growing up and now, because to me that's much scarier. Whenever I watch a film, I always put myself in the movie. So when it's something more realistic, I think that's always been way scarier to me.
Yeah, and hopefully the Houses October Built got that same feel of, you know,
Yes.
we didn't want to make it so crazy that it could never happen, and we didn't want it to be anything supernatural. We wanted it to be like, what happens if, you know, somebody takes it too far?
Yeah. And that was actually going to be something I brought up here with that, was the way that you guys shot that is the same thing. You know, you watch this movie and if you're like me and you put yourself in the movie, you can absolutely see this happening for real.
Yeah.
So that's something I love and respect about the movies too. When we're back to Jaws, what do you think is the scene in Jaws that affected you the most as a kid, and why?
I think it was when Brody is yelling, you know, to get out of the water, because I think that's where it's so real and it's so primal, and you could see yourself kind of being there and kind of being like, wait, what? And like this guy just absolutely going nuts, you know, to try to
Yeah.
save it.
So,
That's what
that's
I can still see, you know, without even having watched it, you know, this year. I can just see his passion and the way when he's running and saying, get out of the water.
yeah, and all the people around you can see the families trying to get their kids out. You know,
Yeah.
as a parent now, like that also freaks me out. A question I have about the House is October Built. For you personally, do you like the writing side of it more or the acting side of it more?
I like the creating, so I think that would go with writing. But I like the producing side. The one side I don't like is editing.
Yeah.
My brain can't operate in the edit bay. It's just like the meticulousness of it. But we always joke that Bobby sees the trees and I see the forest. And
Yeah.
so as he, you know, being meticulous with every tree, I just like that hurts my head. So,
Sure.
but I think we both enjoy the process of coming up with the idea and then, you know, fleshing out the story and the characters and that side of it. The acting part was fun, but that's not where my passion is really. I really, at the beginning, Bobby and I just hired us because we were really cheap.
Sure. I mean, you guys wrote it. Who's going to act it out better than the people that you have that vision? You know what you see and what you wanted. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, for not liking it, you guys killed it.
That was necessary for Houses October Built too, to kind of have that, you know, we didn't bring Mikey and Jeff and Brandy always fully up to speed of what was going on. So it was nice to not have to call cut, but just to be able to work what we needed to work in while the cameras are rolling.
Well, not just that, but it also adds that, you know, surprise to them as well. So you get some real reactions there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, when you have those genuine reactions, it comes across in the movie. And again, guys, I'm going to put this back down in the description on Hulu. The House is October Built 1 and 2. Go check those out. Now, back to Jaws. When you think of the movie Jaws, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
I think the music. I think that's just an iconic way to do a build up. And I mean, I think people that haven't even seen the movie, or you know, maybe if you've been, no pun intended, living on an island, but like you'd still know that song. I just think that I think people just know that beat, and so I think that's been able to really stand the test of time.
And that's one thing I've always talked about. I think the three most iconic songs from any films are Star Wars, Jaws, and Halloween. I think that even if you haven't seen one of those movies, you still know the Imperial March. You still know the you know those even without seeing the film. So that shows how iconic those are. And I'm completely on your side here. That's one thing that anytime, even when kids are playing in the pool, you hear them going da 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 da. You know, so that's something that absolutely
that's bad.
So what is if you had to pick your favorite scene from this movie, what is your favorite scene?
I think that it's funny. I was actually out in New York on a boat for 4th of July this year. and I had my shirt on that said, "I think we're going to need a bigger boat." And that's the scene that stands out to me because it was this moment of humanity where they're just fighting the bad guy and having finally all the characters are together, trying to accomplish this mission. And so it is hard for me to pick out one because I think it's such a memorable movie with so many great moments, but I think it's some of those sound bites, the music, remembering Brody running on the island, the quotable things, the song, the drunken rambling, it's just it all kind of pieces itself together in almost a mini version of the movie for me that just lasts forever.
Yeah, and it's funny because two things I was going to talk about that I don't know if a lot of people know this that have seen the movie. The drunk rambling, he was really drunk throughout that scene.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, and then the we're going to need a bigger boat. That line was actually improvised. That wasn't in the script.
Very cool.
One of the most iconic lines in the whole, because I have a shirt too. It's a blue one and it has the shark in the boat. And it says, "I think we're going to need a bigger boat."
Yeah.
I've got. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where every time anybody watches this movie, that's the one thing we talk about is I think you're going to need a bigger boat. That's on par with me to Luke, I am your father.
Yeah. No, I'm actually. I'm searching for it right now. I was going to see if it might be the same shirt, but I'm not seeing where necessarily I might have put it. But we'll.
Right.
It's actually the latest. It's ironic, but it is the latest post on my Instagram. Is me wearing that shirt on a boat.
And I will put your Instagram down in the description as well, so everybody check that out. And man, that's so awesome. Like, because I didn't know. I went into this blind, guys. I did not know until right before we started recording that Jaws was the movie we were going to talk about. I like it that way. So to be able to sit here and talk to you about a movie that affected me as well, since we are talking Jaws, let's talk some sequels real quick. What are your opinions on the Jaws sequels?
I don't really like. They kind of all run together because I think with it being so long, I really only rewatched the first one, although that would be a fun quarantine activity. But I remember being little, and I've always been into like the cutting edge thing. Like I loved virtual reality, right? When I still do, but it didn't quite take off the way I think we wanted it to. And I just Jaws 3D was just like this event movie for me because it was the new cutting edge thing. So I do think that by you lose a little bit of the brilliance of the first movie. It's filmmaking 101 now is the holding back of the shark, and you kind of at some point you gotta let that loose a little bit, not necessarily in the vein of Sharknado, but you do have to let the audience have a little bit more and play it out. But yeah, and I think it would be wouldn't be right either to not mention the amazing poster. I think Jaws, the marketing is just brilliant, and it stands today, and people still copy that same iconic design.
Yes, with the shark coming up, and yeah, absolutely. Another thing I really love about Jaws is all the practical effects in the movie. I am a big proponent of I would take a shitty practical effect over a decent CGI any day. I think that practical effect is always the way to go, and Jaws is one of those. And you can see it in the film. They talk about how they wanted more of the shark, but they couldn't get Bruce, which is what they named the shark, to cooperate. Well, because it was a big mechanical shark, that they have in the water. And they said a lot of times that Bruce just would not, they couldn't get the damn thing to work right. And which I think it actually kind of helps the movie to build the suspense of not always seeing the shark there, just seeing the fin. I think that's huge in the movie. And you're talking about Jaws 3D. That's my second favorite in the Jaws franchise. I wasn't a huge fan of 2. It's not bad, but I wasn't a huge fan. And 4, I just I can't even finish it. I'm not a fan of that one. But I think Jaws 3D gets a bad rap because a lot of people, when you watch it now, not in 3D, there is a lot of stuff that, just like Friday the 13th 3D. There's a lot of unnecessary in-your-face stuff. But if you can get past that and watch the movie, it's not a bad movie. So I'm glad that you brought that up because I really enjoy Jaws 3D. That's one of the ones that I could watch, right after. Jaws and Jaws 3D are neck and neck for me. So I'm glad you brought that one up because that's something that I really enjoy as well.
Yeah, I may have to strap on my 3D glasses and watch that this weekend.
Oh, that's awesome. See, it's funny because I don't have Jaws 3D in 3D, but I do have Friday in 3D, and it's Jason 3D glasses with the red and the blue. So going back and watching those, man, I wonder if do they still sell Jaws 3D? Do you know?
I don't know. Yeah,
man, I'm gonna have to look into this because
maybe a collector's item.
Yeah, because this is something that I need to get. So we talked about Jaws. That was your first horror movie. I got to go scream on you here real quick. What is your favorite scary movie? What's your favorite horror movie?
I think, again, going back to youth, is The Shining, and part of the reason is because I read the book. It was like the first horror book that I read. Okay. And so I just remember I think my parents knew that I had it. Maybe they weren't even sure exactly what it was, or maybe they were, and they were just kind of letting me explore. But I think I was in 5th grade. And I mean, that is an R-rated book in every way that it can be. And so then I think that was the first, and I was probably too young to do the whole the book is so much better than the movie. I think I just enjoyed the movie for what it for bringing to life, that it was possible to bring to life what I had been experiencing reading. And so that has just always stuck with me. But I hate to only pick movies, from 50 years ago or 40 years ago, but I think a lot of the new stuff is really good. I've really liked the Insidious franchise. Mm-hmm. I loved the first Saw. We actually had a friend at Lionsgate that gave us a VHS of Saw before it had been released to just check it out. Oh, that's awesome. And we were blown away.
Mm-hmm. That was I actually did an episode of My First Horror Movie with my son. It's on the channel if you want to check it out. And he did Saw. And hearing my 12-year-old talk about it and what it meant to him was a whole lot of fun too. And there's these other movies out now. I'm talking about new horror movies. They're called The House's October Bill 1 and 2. Those are great. You should check those out as well. I'm with you. The same. We were talking about the book's better than the movie. I look at that as the same as the original is always going to be better than the remake. I don't hate remakes. I think if a remake is done good, it's done good. It doesn't take away from the original to me to watch a remake. There are some people out there that are like, well, the new Child's Play is so different. It's nothing like the original. Well, I don't want to watch the original again. I want them to modernize it. I want it to be different. I loved the new Child's Play. I thought it was fantastic. So same thing with the book.
It's someone else's take. And I think as writers, you're always precious of your material, as you should be, but you have to, I liken it to if I had built a car and, I had put years of blood, sweat, and tears and choices on, the stereo system and the paint and the seats and the leather that I chose, every single thing, I would be meticulously, building the car for me. But maybe I spend $50,000 doing this, and then you buy this car for $100,000. It's now your car. Yeah. And you wanted to buy it for all of, the reasons that I mentioned, some of my choices, but you also can then make your choices to make it your car. And I think people forget that when someone's buying a screenplay or remaking a movie, it's that they're taking from it because they love it, but they're gonna make it their own. And you probably, I designed the car with all those choices in mind for me, but you're gonna change something, and I'm probably gonna disagree with you, or I would have chosen that to begin with.
That's a great comparison. And
buy the car,
my whole thing is, why would you want to go watch the exact same movie again.
Yeah.
You know, like I want them.
Even if you dislike some of the choices, right? Like you're just seeing someone else's vision of the original source material.
Yes. And I think maybe I'm so, not anti-remakes. I swear one day I'm going to remake Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, just called Season of the Witch. And it's going to be the most badass movie of all time because that's one of my favorite horror movies. And I think it gets unjustly crushed just because it has Halloween 3 on it. So that's something I'm going to do someday, man. And you're going to help me. No, this has been awesome. One thing I always end these with, skull count. 0 to 5 skulls. You're ranking Jaws. 0 being the worst, 5 being the best. What is your ranking of Jaws?
I'm going to give it a 4.5. I just wouldn't ever really give anything a 5 because I think things can always be improved. And so
Sure.
a 4.5 is the top. If you gave it a 5, there'd be nowhere to go. So
Right.
yeah,
No,
but
and
for all those reasons we talked about, and I'm, I take into account the era it was made and what they, the limitations that they had, but man, it still holds up. It was great at the time. It's iconic. It's a summer movie.
I watch it once a year. I talk about this too. I have holiday movies that I watch with my family, and they're all holiday horror movies. Father's Day, we watch Creepshow. Halloween, we watch Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. And every 4th of July, we watch Jaws. So, I mean,
Nice.
That's what, I think that's how important this movie is to me, is that I share it every year with my family. Like I said, my son's like, what is this? This is garbage. I'm like, you're grounded, man. Go to your room. But like these movies, I about this a lot, and, you being a writer shows what horror has meant to you as well. It's meant so much to you. You go and you pour it out from your heart into your fingers to our eyes, and you entertain us, and we appreciate what you do. But I wouldn't be the person I am today without some of these movies I grew up with and the musicians that I grew up listening to. Like you being a writer, and obviously The House is October Built is something I'm big on. You guys, I know you hear this a lot, but you don't understand what you mean to us. They're just movies, but man, they changed the trajectory of our lives. So thank you for all that you do. I can't wait until this COVID's over and we can start getting some more material from you. It really means a lot that you came on the show with me. And I hope that once you get some updates, please update me or Michael so we can start updating people on your upcoming projects. Yeah. It would really mean a lot to us.
I really appreciate that. I think people don't understand how much hearing that means. And you think, you probably hear that all the time, but there's a sincerity there that it comes across even on a Zoom. And as filmmakers, we do appreciate it. And it matters so much that it does affect people. So
right. And right now there's this whole political landscape of, oh, well, you're Hollywood, you keep to yourselves and blah, 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 blah. And you know what? Like without you guys, my life would be completely different. I live my life based on entertainment, and I don't want it to sound corny like that, but man, like I said, every day in my life, I'm quoting movies to people when we're hanging out in conversation, and so stuff like that. Thank you guys for what you do. It really means a lot to all of us. Everybody watching, I'm sure, would tell you the same thing, man. All of us would be completely different people without the movies that you guys do. So thank you so much, everybody. I'm Ken Sledge. He is Zack Andrews. We appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you guys soon.
All right. See you guys.